and how comfortable I felt talking about it. Because for some people, I mean, even to just say the words of genitals is like the scariest thing in the world for them, and I can see that being a professor now. When I hear stories from 19-year-old kids who find out they're HIV positive, or people who have been sexually assaulted, or people who didn't know that they had access to birth control, and didn't know that they had access to treatment even for some of their STIs. I mean, some of the stories I've heard could have completely not existed had people had better access to sex education. So I hope part of my mission in this world is to create an environment where people feel that sex is a normal, natural thing, because it is. It is in fact how we all got here. Come at it from fear. We don't empower people, because really sexuality is a core part of humanity. And in letting people know that their sexuality is normal and healthy, and that there's no need to be embarrassed in that, and that instead of being ashamed of our sexuality, if we take pride in it and we protect ourselves, we're going to live happier, healthier lives, and we're going to have happier, healthier relationships. Kids are more likely to come to their parents, number one, to ask questions, but also to get on birth control. If something terrible does happen, they get an STI, they get sexually assaulted, something like this, they're going to feel more comfortable getting help from their parents or their family than a family that says, sex is dirty and disgusting, and if you do it, I will kill you. So they might be telling you, you know, to put an aspirin in between your legs, and that if you, you know, swallow, you're going to get pregnant. You know, some of these like myths around sexuality, which can really mess up children. I had a student once whose parents told her that they picked her from a Cabbage Patch, and she believed them until she was 12. She was very angry when she found out it wasn't true. Brazil actually, because of their incredibly high HIV rates and teen pregnancy and whatnot, about 8 or 9 years ago, started to plant rubber trees to replace a lot of the deforesting that has happened in the Amazon, so they could start actually farming latex to make the condoms that the government now pays for. So the government, because of the HIV, now pays for like millions of condoms for their people. One of the weird things we're starting to see in Japan is fewer people are having sex and having babies. So the government of Japan is actually now paying people to have babies, because they're worried about what's going to happen with this declining birth rate, because it's like, which is scary for the economy and for taking care of older people and whatnot. I had a student from Sweden who was just so shocked by how little everybody knew in class, because he's like, I learned this stuff in middle school. Like, what do you guys learn here? So they've like the lowest teen pregnancy rate, very low STI rate. But I mean, a lot of these cultures are really fascinating, and some of them are just, they'll push your buttons, because you hear practices that these places do and you're like, what? Like, that's terrible. But you have to understand that, for example, female genital mutilation in some countries is normal for them. If you don't get cut, you probably won't get married. So it's like you have to be seen as this clean and cut woman in order to be presented. So it's, in their mind, it's not this terrible thing where they're taking off their clitorises and they won't ever have orgasms. It's, this is my duty as a woman, so I will be a good wife, and that someone will want to marry me.